This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pimm Fox. Now, President Obama authorized more stringent sanctions on the Russian economy today. In other words, this is not a game. But my next guest sees games as a great profit generator in Russia. Ilya Nikolayev is the chief executive of the mobile gaming company Tapinator, and he joins me now. Ilya, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Pimm.
Tell us about how you started Tapinator.
Sure. So I actually started in the app and game space back in 2007 in the days of the Facebook platform. Launched one of the first Facebook apps called Family Tree. Sold that business in 2011. And after that, looked at what's next. Mobile gaming was clearly a quickly growing area and started Tapinator to focus on games on mobile devices.
All right. Now, Tapinator focuses not only games on mobile devices, but it focuses on the Russian market. That's a very lucrative market. Tell us about how big it is and what's it like.
Sure. So Tapinator is a company. We launched games across all of the different countries and geographies, primarily provide our games via iOS, Play, and Amazon. But the Russian market is a great performing market for us. We have a number of titles that do very well in that market. Certain categories resonate especially well in terms of parking games, simulation games, games with military themes. And we have some games that have upwards of 40% of activity that are derived from the Russian market. So it's a great market for a number of our titles.
I'm just going to give you a couple of titles, and I want your thoughts on it. How do you describe them? Angry Shark Simulator. What's that game about?
Sure, it's a game where you basically control a shark and you swim through the ocean and get to go on various adventures and do different things. So it's a game that does well in the Russian market, has upwards of 1 million installs on that title, and has done very well. How
does the Russian market and their cultural preferences for online gaming, how are they different than, let's say, the market in the United States?
Sure. So when we look at certain categories, for example, our simulation and parking games, the military theme has resonated well in Russia. So we tend to launch games across a broad range of themes, but it's definitely the case that certain specific categories do extremely well. Military is one example. The shark game is another example. We have a game called Balance of the Shaolin.
Which is the new game, right?
It's a fairly new game. It launched about 5 to 6 months ago. It was featured by Apple, and there's a sequel that'll launch next month. The first game did very well, and we've built a new version of that product.
Have you had any issues regarding the economic sanctions? Have you noticed any changes in the business coming out of Russia?
We haven't noticed any major changes as yet. I know the situation is still developing. We're keeping a close eye on it. Haven't noticed anything as yet. I'm sure that Apple will look closely in terms of the pricing of in-app purchases and the way that they price different things from their side. We're keeping a close eye on it, but no big changes as yet.
How about attracting talent and hiring the right kind of engineers?
Sure. So it's a great marketplace in terms of hiring talented folks. Lots of talented developers and designers are coming out of Russia. We actually have a small studio that's based outside of Moscow that's working on a particular title. Basically a very talented indie developer. We saw his initial game and brought him into the company. Also a number of folks within Tapinator based in New York are Russian speaking, and so it's a great set of people to work with and do business with.
All right, now so we wanted to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. So I wanted to understand, what is Ilya's favorite, most memorable, let's say, video game?
Sure. So I think a number of the most memorable video games are still back in the early days of video games. So games like Street Fighter, Super Mario World, and some of the games that I've played years ago.
Super Mario Brothers, I think that's one of your favorites, right?
Certainly.
What about being an innovator? Because you're in the technology world. Is there any particular innovator that you look up to right now?
Sure. I think that there are a few great folks out there. Elon Musk is obviously one example that comes to mind in terms of an innovator across a number of different fields. Steve Jobs previously, obviously, innovated within not only mobile but music and a number of other fields. So lots of folks to look up to.
All right, and we want to know, of course, what is your favorite movie? What can we find Ilya Nikolayev watching?
Favorite movies? Well, there are lots of great movies out there. I mean, I think The Godfather comes to mind as sort of a movie from many years ago that is very memorable and has obviously done extremely well.
Has it influenced making any of the video games?
It's a genre that we've looked at. It's something that's licensed by other companies, and it's definitely a brand name that we've looked at in terms of inspiring future products.
I want to thank you very much for spending time with me.
Thank you, Pimm.
Ilya Nikolayev, he is the chief executive of Tapinator.